We saw last week that the Pharisees and the Jews were questioning Christ. They wanted to know how it is that his disciples were able to go into buildings and not wash their hands. This is not a hygiene issue. This is a question of the rituals, the ceremonies of the Jews. And they wanted to know how come the disciples of Christ didn't follow the Jewish ceremonies and customs and rituals of the elders. And Christ said, because it's not what a person does on the outside that defiles them, that makes them unholy. It's what comes out of the heart. And now he's going to take us on a journey and show us men and women who have this heart, this desire for God. And as we're going along the way, we've got to ask, we've got to check, we've got to examine our own heart with the Lord. Because there's a Syrophoenician mother. Back in chapter 7, it says that she was this Syrophoenician mother. It means she was of this mixed ancestry. And it tells us back in chapter 7, verse 24, that he arose and he went away and he goes to the region of Tyre and Sidon and he enters into a house, and he didn't want anyone to know that he was there, but he couldn't be hidden. And immediately a woman whose little daughter had an unholy spirit heard of him and came and fell down at his feet. This woman was not a Christian, was not a Christ follower, was not a believer in Christ, but she got word that Christ was in the room, was in the house, was nearby, and she had heard of what he can do. And based on what she had heard that he could do, she begs Christ to heal her daughter. Have you ever been so desperate for Christ that you have to beg for his mercy and his grace? I have to wake up every morning and beg Christ to show his mercy on me, his grace on me, his favor on me. She had to beg for Christ. Now that's a desperation. That's a heart's desire to see and to know and to receive from him. And she fell down begging that Christ would heal her daughter. You and I have been in some circumstances, some situations where we found ourselves in some tight scrapes and some circumstances where things were tight, things were challenging. And in those moments, we fell down on his knees. We fell down on our knees and we called on Christ because we knew there was no one else who could do it. And so here is this mother with this daughter whose body is controlled by a demonic, unholy spirit, finding no other help, finding no other doctor, finding no other advisor, finding no other counselor. She falls on her knees and calls on the name of Christ. He reminds her of the cultural things that bar her from hearing from him. She says, he says to her, don't you know that the Jews, the children of God, they have to eat first. They're the ones who get to talk to Christ. He's challenging, he's testing her faith and reminding her that there's some cultural reasons why she can't just come up to Christ like that. You don't get from Christ because you're from the wrong culture. And she says to him, yes, sir, but when the children of God, when the children eat, the crumbs that fall on the floor, that fall under the table, even the dogs get to eat up from the crumbs under the table. And he said, because of this statement, because you didn't allow culture to bar you, because you didn't let the rules and the regulations, like the Jews had been talking about, like the Pharisees had been saying, that only certain cultures, that there's a certain tradition that you must be tied to. He said, because you are so desperate for me, because you're begging for my help, for the healing of your daughter, because you're willing to get beyond the cultural boundaries and to call the name of Christ, he says, go on home. Your daughter's taken care of. Your daughter has me. I don't have to go. I don't have to do anything. So just go on home because of this statement you have made, because of this outcrying of faith, because of calling on my name, because of this desperation, because you need me in such a way, and you realize there's no other help but the help you can receive from Christ. He says, it is so. And he moves on from there.